Hello everyone, my name is Mayur Salunkhe. I am from Mumbai support team. So our today's webinar topic is on Spider 5.2 new features. So we will now first look for what are the new features added in our Spider 5.2. So the first feature which we have added, that is a volume display change. So what does that mean? So we'll come to our software. Okay, so here on the bottom we can see earlier the volume we were able to see in the older version, that was in a stick format. So right now we can see this volume in a bar format. Okay, and here we have incorporated some different styles. Okay, so what are those? So here I go to this volume. So as I want to change the display style, so here I go to this display. Here we have the first option, that is the volume own color. So what does this mean? It is considering the current volume bar comparing with the previous volume bar. Okay, which means if the current volume is higher than the previous volume, so it will be plotting in a green. In the previous day here we can see the volume was increasing. Okay, and wherever the volume is decreasing, it is plotting in a red color. So because of this we can identify considering the price also. So in this is a Nifty spot chart, so I will change to Nifty futures. So here we can see in the previous 3 days we can see the prices were falling. Okay, and in here we can see the prices volume was increasing. So we can incorporate that the shorts are getting built up over there. Okay, so this is the one relation over here for the volume. Second, we move to the next draw style. So the second draw style is in a line format. Okay, so I just modify here, so we can see the volume is plotted in a line format. Okay, the third draw style in this is that is based on the volume price color. Okay, so what does that mean? So whenever your prices are closing in a red color or bearish, so the volume will be shown in a red bars. Whenever your prices are closing green, so the volume will be shown in a green bars. And the last fourth option which we have, the same which we were able to see in the older version, that is kind of histogram. So if I modify it, so here we can see the stick volume. This we were able to see in the earlier version. That same we have incorporated over here. So these are the four different draw styles for the volume which we have added in this. Okay. The next feature which we have added is that in the chart period selection, that is a control I, combine n bars. Okay, so whenever if I want to change the time frame, so I use the shortcut key control I. So as I mentioned control I get this pop-up. So here we can select the time frames for the intraday and as well as for the higher time frames than daily. Okay, so here we have added one option, that is for the n bars. So how does this n bar works? So this means that if I want to combine number of days into a single candle, so that can help, which means that if current week, if we consider that we have seen that we have got 1 day holiday, if in a working days we know that there is a 5 working days in a week. Okay, and we have got one holiday, so in this last week we were having only 4 working days. Suppose if I want that, then that I need 5 working days candle to be clubbed in a single candle. So here I can mention numeric 5 on this blank space, then I mention n. So now here I can see that each candle represents the 5 days clubbed together. So for the past one and a half month, we can see the Nifty is consolidating between the 16,000 levels and 15,600 or roughly 15,500 levels. So it's a very tight zone created over here. Okay, so this particular chart right now which I am watching, this is just based on the trading days, not the calendar days. Whenever, let's say if I move to the weekly time frames, this is showing based on the calendar days. Okay, so it is considering the holidays also over there. But if I just want the trading days to be shown, so I can use this numeric option and then I mention n bar, so it will combine those trading days and show me the proper data over here. So this is the new feature which we have added in control I. Next, third feature which we have added is that for the open interest charts. So what does this mean? So before going to that open interest chart, I would like to run the action replay. Why? Because if I want to watch out for the open interest data, so I can get the proper detail about it if I run the action replay. Okay, so I'm just changing the volume style over here, bringing to the normal volume on color and modify. Okay, so for running the action replay, we go to this file, we go to this action replay. Earlier we were providing only for the specific exchange, that is the NSE cash and NSE derivatives. Now we can run both the exchange at the same time. Okay, so here we mention NSE cash plus derivatives. So on the top we are mentioning the load history data for. So what does this mean? If I want to watch the past data while running the action replay intraday, so that number of days I will be mentioning over here. So right now I have mentioned 30 days, and here we will be selecting the replay data. So which replay data do I want to watch out? So I have selected for the yesterday's date. Okay, and now I uncheck from the suspend option. I am mentioning the replay speed as 1 seconds. Okay, so it will run by 1 seconds forward. Slightly I will increase the speed to 10 seconds. Okay, and I close this pop-up. Here I mention again control I. Let's say I go to the lower time frame, that is 15 minutes, and I zoom in over there, so we can see the yesterday candle has been started. Okay, so now we will move to the next feature, that it's in charts. We have the open interest charts. Okay, so here we will mention the underlying. So I am mentioning underlying as Nifty. We will mention the expiry date. Then we will select the strike price. I am giving a range from 15,000 to 16,500. And then I mention refresh. So as I mentioned refresh, we can see we have a button given up over here, which is showing the current open interest. So now each and every strike price, I am getting a data on this top over here. So which strike it is it, how much call open interest is there, and how much put open interest is there. But this call and put open interest are shown in a lot size. Here we can see we have mentioned the checkbox over here. Okay, for the current open interest, as we can see, we are having a highest open interest on the call side at 16,000, and there is a fight going at the level of 15,800 between the call writers and put writers, because both the open interests are same. Next, if I want to watch out what was the open interest for the previous day, so I can click on this second button. Okay, then here if I just want to compare with the calls open interest for the previous day and call open interest for the current day, so I can get this bars. So this right bar is indicating the current day open interest, this left bar is indicating for the previous day open interest. Okay, now here we have one more option, that is for the previous difference from the previous day. So what does this mean? So this tells us that how much open interest change has been happened for today. Okay, so here we can see at 15,800 levels, the open interest has been drastically added till now. So the current live market time is going on at 9:35 a.m. Okay, if I again mention the refresh, so I will get the proper data. So we can see we have the fight going at 15,800 levels, 15,900 levels, all open interest has been added, and we can see the market came drastically downwards. Okay, so because of this data we can identify at particular which strike we are getting the open interest built up over there. Okay, and this is the main option where we can see where is the OI change happening. Okay, right now I'm just able to see on graphical format. If I want in a report format, I can click on this reports, so I get it in a report format also. Okay, and as well as you can make the color changes for the calls and put sides both. Okay, now I'll just decrease the speed for the action replay. So we will make it as a 5 second. Yeah. The next feature which we are focusing, that is for the brick charts. Okay, so what does that brick charts means? Brick charts are basically Renko charts. Okay, which we are able to see over here in charts. Okay, then on the last we can see the brick charts. Okay, so here I click on this brick chart, so it is asking me which script do I want to watch out. Okay, so I am considering the Nifty spot only. Okay, so here we can see the Nifty spot chart, that is on the daily time frame. I am able to see the candlesticks, normal candlesticks pattern over here. Okay, just a minute. So now here we can see that we are considering the starting date for the brick chart from 1st of January 2019. Here we can see the box size. Okay, and now I just click on the refresh. Okay, so now here we can see a single brick plotting over here. So what does this brick brick chart does, that I will just give you an explanation in short. So whenever the Nifty changes by 791 points, okay, so how does this is calculated, this box size? So we have made the default feature in it. Okay, so whatever the price spot chart is, whatever the spot price is there right now, okay, it will consider the 5% of that spot price as we click on refresh. Okay, so it is considering the 791 points. So whenever Nifty moves by 791 points upward, it will plot a green brick. Again 791 points, again second brick. Okay, by the time it doesn't move down by 791 points, it won't be plotting a red brick over there. Okay, so this is right now, this particular Renko charts, it is not considering the time frame, it is just considering the price movement. Okay, so because of this reason, this particular Renko charts, brick charts are called as a noiseless charts. Okay, so if I want to know what will be the short term trend, so what I can do, I can decrease this box size. Okay, at what, till what level I can decrease it, so we can make it till last 1%. Okay, so here we can see the Nifty is trading at 15,656, so I can mention 150 roughly, and here I just click on refresh. Okay, so we can see the software has automatically calculated the 1% of it. Okay, and on the current scenario, we can see the brick charts are showing a bullish momentum. Okay, if this same charts, if I wanted to see for the Nifty on daily time frames, okay, so here we can see we are getting a whipsaws or a sideways range movement, but in this brick chart we can see a direct move coming up over there. Okay, so this is a handy feature which helps us to identify where the prices are heading towards, and as well as you can consider the higher high higher low formations forming in a Nifty. Okay, and even you can consider the price pattern, those are double tops, double bottoms, and even you can trade on those using this brick charts. Okay, this same we can use it for the intraday also. So here we mention the intraday time frame on it. Okay, so this is the new feature for the brick charts. Next, we have the NSE option chain. So here in reports, we move to the NSE option chain. Okay, so this here again we will mention the underlying as a Nifty. We will select the expiry, let's say weekly. We will mention the ranges 15,000 to 16,500. And I'm mentioning the strikes should be considered as all. And if you want to give a difference step between each strike, so you can mention the difference over here. And right now I click on this refresh. Okay, yeah, I just make it full screen. So here we can see this particular option chain, we can see the same replica of the NSE website which we are able to see, the option chain on NSE website. Okay, so here I mention it as an ascending format, and I just make it full screen. So we can see the highlighted strikes, those are the in the money call options. The highlighted strikes, those are on the put side, are for the in the money, and those are unhighlighted are for the out of the money. Okay, so here also we have added some grids. So the first grid here we can see that is the last traded price. Okay, so last traded price, here we can see this is the column for the premium. So what premium is going on right now for that particular strike, what how much quantity has been traded, the total open interest, this is in a lots format. Okay, and here we have a delta. Next grid here we have for the bid and offer. This will be working in a live market right now. As I have mentioned that we are considering the action review. Okay, the third option here we can see that is for the grids. Okay, so here we can get each and every strikes options grid, the delta, gamma, theta, vega, which will be updating in a live. Okay, next here we have the implied volatility. Okay, so here we have added one column that is called as a black shows column. Okay, so what does that mean? So right now we can see 15,750 call premium is trading at 109. Okay, if we are considering the spot price, strike price, the annual interest volatility, okay, and the days for the expiration, so what will be the theoretical price for this particular strike premium? So it is showing me that it should be at 183, but right now it's trading at 109. So we are having a big discount over here on the call sides. Okay, same if we move to the put side, here we can see it is trading at 71, but the put should be traded at 112. So we can see we are not getting a much more discount over here compared to the call side. Okay. Next grid here we have that is for the LTP2. So here we get a bifurcation of that particular premium price. Okay. So the premium is trading at 109. Okay. In that 109, how much points are dedicated to time value and for the intrinsic value? Okay. This particular grid will help you to choose the strike price. Which strike price should you go for if you're option buyer? Okay. Next grid here we have the option for the open interest. Okay, so again here we have the LTP, the previous day open interest in lot size, the open interest current, and how much OI change has been happened. Okay, in the same way, next grid we have the open interest 2. Okay, so what this open interest 2 means, we have added one column that is for the percentage change in an open interest. Okay, so here we get a open interest change in a percentage terms in this particular column. Okay, so this is a whole option chain report where you can do the analysis for the options related strikes. Okay, next feature we have that is for the market wide limit report. Okay, so here we come to this reports, we go to this market wide limit report. Okay, we make it as a refreshment seconds for 1 minute and we refresh it. Okay, so here we have a data for each and every script. So earlier we were providing just market wide and its percentage, OI percentage. Okay, right now we are providing the additional data. So what this additional data is, so in this current futures open interest we get the open interest considering the whole expiry, the all the three futures expiry. Adding the all the three futures expiry, we are getting the current open interest. Okay, then same way for the put side and same for the call side, and here we get the PCR ratio. Okay, and as well as we get the for the previous days. Okay, then we move to the next column. Here we have the underlying rate, what is the underlying trading at. Okay, and where we have the highest open interest on the call side. Okay, so here we have that is on the 900, and the second highest open interest on the call side is at 880. Okay, on the put side we can see at 850, and on the second we can see at 800. Okay, and here we have the rollover percentage. Okay, and then we have the maximum pain. So what does this maximum pain means? So as I said, the call writers and put writers are fighting at that level. So this particular strike is showing me that. So if we are considering the RP industries, so maximum pain is showing that at 860 levels, the both call writers and put writers are fighting those levels. Okay. Then here we have the rollover percentage. So we can say that carry forward positions. Okay. So we can even filter this rollover percentage. And here we can see the most of the rollover percentage are taking at Adani ports. After that we have Idea, then we have Steel Authority and National Aluminium. So this particular rollover percentage is beneficiary when we are considering the monthly expiry. So as we know, the monthly expiry is on 29. Okay, and there is only 5 days remaining. Okay, so this rollover percentage tells us that how the positions are getting carried forward for the next expiries. Okay, so this data we are getting over here. Next, here we have the derivatives OI change. Okay, so here we come to this reports. The last we have NSE derivatives OI change report. Okay, so what does this report tells us? Here we go to this underlying same as Nifty, and now I mention refresh. Okay, so here it is giving me a accumulated data for the related to the open interest, and that too in a live market. Okay, so on the right hand side, this first column, okay, it is showing me that in Nifty at 16,000 level, that is on the call side, we are having a highest open interest. Okay, and at 15,000 levels we are having a highest open interest at put side. So we get a broader idea that on what levels the highest open interest is built up, that is on the 16,000 and 15,000. Okay, the 1,000 point difference. Okay, the second column here we can see this is the OI change. So this OI change is for comparing the today's and previous day. So where do we have the highest open interest change? Okay, so that we can say in a lot size also. So suppose let's say right now we are on Nifty. I mentioned F5 because of which I get the summary report. Okay. So here, as we can see, we have this open interest column. So right now I have mentioned open interest in lots. Okay. So I filter based on the open interest lots. Okay. The same data here we can see the 16,000 call, the 15,000 put. So that data we are getting over here in highest open interest. Okay. And now here I'm just unchecking from the OI change in percentage. I just want to consider where do we have the open interest change maximum. So that data we are getting over here. Okay. That is on the 15,900 levels and 15,800 levels. Here we can see this one 15,900 call, 15,800 put. Okay. And the third column, the OI percentage change. Okay. So what does this column represents? So basically this column is telling us where do we have a spike in the open interest and on which strike price. Okay. So this particular data is showing me that at 16,850 call side and as well as at 16,850 put side, there is a spike in open interest. So this keeps on updating in live market. So here we can see on the bottom at 9:18 a.m. Okay, we got a spike in the 15,850 call and put both sides. And after that at 9:21 a.m. we got 16,850 call spike up and the same in 15,850 put. Okay, so if I want to eliminate the duplicate, okay, so I have mentioned the duplicate, remove duplicates over here. If I want to watch out for the whole data as it refreshes, so I can get the refreshment data continuously coming up. So how does this will help us? Okay, so this will help us there where the shift is happening in the call side or the put side as the day moves forward. Okay, so in the same way, right now we can go for the again running the action replay. Okay, so I just unsuspend this as the markets are moving. Okay, we know that the yesterday market slightly moved downwards and then we got a reversal move from here. Okay, so here also we can see, so let's say if I make it refreshes, so we can get the data over here, so where does the open interests are changing more. Okay, which can help us to identify where on which direction markets are heading towards. Okay, so for the time I am just mentioning the remove duplicate, so I will get a whole proper data. I won't get confused over there. Okay, so in the morning we can see the 16,000 call open interest was higher, then they shifted to 15,900 levels. In this way we can interpret, but right now here we can see at 15,800 levels are sustaining. Here the open interests are continuously building up. Okay, so it's harder for the Nifty to break this particular 15,800 levels. Okay, right now on Nifty futures we can see it slightly came down and getting reversed. Okay, so in this way we can read out the data and we can identify where the markets are trying to move. Okay, next here we have, so we will now move to the next slide. So here we have made the modifications in the existing features. Okay, and what are those? So first, as I mentioned, for the action replay, the second here we have that is for the comparative open interest charts. Okay, so here I go to this charts, we go to this comparative open interest charts, we open up the new one. Here we mention, so earlier we were selecting a single strike prices. Okay, so we have the next option to select the multiple strike price. So what I do, I will just remove all. Okay, I mentioned select multiple NSE derivatives. Here you can mention this selective script. So let's say Nifty. I mentioned the expiry, that is the nearest. So as we know, we have a weekly expiry, so we can, it will consider the weekly expiry automatically. Okay, here we mention instrument as a call put. Okay, and here we can give the range for the option strike prices. Okay, so as we can see, option strike within 1% of underlying price. So wherever the underlying price is there, so we can see Nifty is trading at 15,840 levels. From there, 1% out of the side money strikes, and from there in the side money strikes will be considered. Okay, and which are those? So if I checkbox on this particular option, then I click on show, so I will get the strike prices over there. Okay, so what normally I do over here, I mentioned the option strike within 0.5%, which means I will get the nearest strike prices. Okay, So as I click on show, so we can see 15,800, 850 and 900. Okay. Then I click on this select all, then I click on add, and here I click on quit. Okay. And I have personally given the call strike as a green color, put strike as a red color. Okay. So why did I does that? Because whenever we move to this intraday today, so we are getting multiple lines over there. Okay, now here we can see some green lines are moving upward, red lines are moving upward, but the starting point of all those lines are different because their open interests were different. So if I want to do a proper comparison, what I can do, I can mention OI data as a percentage terms. So here we can see it's showing in a percentage term. Now I get an idea that this particular strike open interest is building faster. So, and which that strike is, so I just simply click on this strike, I get the highlighted strike over there, that is at 15,850 levels. And on the bottom also we can see this red line is getting higher, that is at 15,800 levels. We can keep this on a refreshment second, that is on 1. Okay, so here it will keep on refreshing automatically in the live market as it's running. Okay, and here we can see the call open interest is also building, that is at 15,850 levels. So if we see a shift over there, the call open interests are decreasing and put open interest is increasing, we can say the put writers are getting more stronger over there. Okay, so earlier what we used to do, we used to add single strike prices, but right now due to this spider multiple NSE derivatives, select multiple NSE derivative strike, we can add strikes multiple over here. Okay, so this is the new feature which we have added. Now we are considering this on intraday basis, right? So here I move to end of the day basis. Okay, so we are seeing a cluster of lines. Okay, so we have added one more option, that is for the cumulative chart. So as I click on cumulative chart, so what it has done, it has added all the call open interest in a one line, added all the put open interest in a one line. So here we can see from roughly around 13th of July, the call open interest in this specific 3 strikes only were risen speedily. And now in the past 1 or 2 days, we can see the put open interest was also increasing. Okay, so here again we go to this intraday today and we can see, so this particular intraday today is helping for intraday basis. Okay, so this is the new option which we have added in this. Okay, next here we have a derivative summary report. Okay, so as I mentioned F5, so I get a summary report opening up for Nifty. Okay, so what changes do we have made? Okay, so here we have the option to select the expiry. Which expiry do I need? Suppose let's say if I need all the expiries data, so I can simply click on this checkbox. So I will get the all the expiries data. So if I filter on this open interest basis, I can get the data out, pull out over there. Okay, if I just need for the current expiry and simply uncheck, it will automatically consider the nearest expiry data. Okay, and on the bottom here we can see the put lot. Okay, so I will change this. So here we mention quantity. Okay, so this particular is showing me the put quantity, the whole expiry, whole put strike prices summing up over there, how much quantities are traded over there. Same for the call side, and how much open interest is there on the put side and on the call side, and as well as for the PCR ratio for the call input. Okay, so this is the one a new option which we have introduced in summary report. Okay, next we move to the option that is the NSE derivative OI query. Okay, so here we go to this query, we go to this NSE derivatives OI query, we open up the new one. So as I said, here we can get the data where we have the open interest spike. So I mentioned call and put, here I select near, I mentioned selective script, that is for Nifty. Okay, and here I mentioned in lots, open interest in lots, and it should be giving in a live. Okay, so automatically wherever, as I have mentioned, absolute open interest change greater than 0 in last 1 minute. Okay, so wherever there is a open interest spike, okay, the same spike which we were focusing, that is in a OI report, this one, these spikes are getting from this over here. Okay, but in this report we get the all sum up report what the markets are trying to do. Okay, right now in this report we can see that 15,800 and 15,800 call and put, again we are fighting, and we can see the prices are holding over there. Okay, so we can get a more idea as the market moves ahead. Here in NSE derivatives OI query, we have added one option that is for the absolute delta. So here we have added one column for the delta. So we can mention the absolute delta, let's say ranging from 0.40, okay, to 0.60. Okay, because of which we will be just able to see the at the money strikes. So wherever in the at the money strikes we have a open interest spike, that will be cast over here. Okay, so this new absolute delta option we have added in it. Okay, next we have the changes in the report designer and delivery volume report. Okay, so we will go to this reports. Here we move to report designer. So basically this report designer is used to pull out the data for what we can say for data analysis purpose. Okay, so suppose let's say I click on this add new column. Okay, here I select average. I go to this parameters. Here I mention simple 20 days moving average on daily time frames. On column, I select the average on last bar. Last bar means current trading bar. Then I click on add. Okay, so here we can select the exchange directly. Okay, suppose let's say if I select the NSE cash. Okay, but there are total 4,900 scripts in NSE whole exchange. Okay, so if I want to filter scripts based on the delivery basis also, so that option we have added over. So if I mention delivery percentage is greater than 20, only those scripts should be shown. Okay, and then I click on run. So we can see it has filtered out 1750 scripts. Okay, where the delivery percentage is greater than 20%. Okay, and right now I'm just canceling it. So we get this data. So in whichever script we are having a delivery percentage greater than 20, and we are getting the simple 20 days moving average for that particular script. Okay, so this is the changes which we have added in report design. Then we go to the same again reports. Here we have delivery volume report. Okay, so here we can mention the delivery quantity. Let's say if I mention greater than 1 lakh, okay, you can select the exchange or you can select the group. Okay, so let's say for the time being I'm selecting Nifty 500 group. And here I click on. Now we will mention the delivery percentage. So here I mention 50 percentage to 100 percentage. Then I click on process. Okay, so we have added this two buttons over here. The first is indicating the delivery percentage. So here we are getting the data based on the delivery percentage. If I want to know how many number of shares volume lakhs has been traded, so I can click on this checkbox or button and then I click on process. So I will get the data on it. So it's indicating in a lakhs format. Okay, and if I want to search out for a specific script, I can simply mention on the search bar. Okay, so let's say I mention ITC. So here we can see we are getting the data of it. Okay, so in the next here we have added new studies. Okay, the first study is that is for the delivery volume. Okay, so here again I go to this ITC. Okay, I move on daily time frames. Okay, so I right click over here. I go to this add study. I mentioned D. So that is the delivery volume. Earlier we were getting in a line format. Now we can get it on a bar format. Okay. So I mentioned add. So here on the bottom we can see. So on specific day, suppose let's say on this day. So the total traded quantity was 2 CR. In that 88 lakhs delivery has been taken up. So on the bottom as well as we can see both the delivery volume and as well as the total traded volume on it. Okay. Next here we have the option strategies added over there. Okay, so if you are trading option strategies, so I move on again to Nifty spot. I move on intraday time frames. Let's say 15 minutes. Okay, I right click over here, go to this add study, or we can use the shortcut key as S. Okay, here I mention O. So here we have added total 10 strategies in it related to the options. Okay, so if I want to know how that particular strategy works, so if I click on the short strategy, I move to these parameters. Here I have the question mark. I just need to bring the cursor to there. So here I get the detailed data. How does this strategy works, and for what reason we are trading in it. So all those data is reflected over here. Okay. So let's say currently we are considering 15,800 and we click on add. So we can see the straddle premium chart line has been plotted over there. Okay. Next here we have the third study, that is the signal high volume candle. Okay. So again we will come to the same script, that is the ITC. We will move on daily time frames. Okay. Suppose if I plot a moving average on the volume. Okay. So here I go to this average, I go to this parameter, I mentioned 20. So that's on in all time frame. Here I change the input to volume, and in subgraph I select the volume and then I click on add. Okay. If I want to know on which candle do I get the highest spike in a volume greater than this moving average. Okay. So for that reason we have added that particular study. So I go to this add study. Here I mention S, that is signal high volume candle. Then I go to this parameters. Here we can mention the average period. Right now, as I have mentioned on the charts also, the simple 20, we are considering the same simple 20. Here we have the volume factor. So what does the volume factor mean? If I want to know if there is a 2 times volume greater than the average period volume, then I will mention the volume factor as 2. If I want to know if the volume is greater than 5 times of the average volume, then I will mention 5. Okay, so here you can change the display also. So here we have the draw signal draw also, that is a triangle arrow circle. So right now I am considering the arrow. Here I mention in all time frames, then I click on add. Okay, so there is a 5 times, so I will just change it to 3 times and modify. Okay, so on whichever candle I got this spike, it is, this arrow is indicating me the candle. Okay, so right now we can see the arrows are reflected on the top of the candle. If I want this particular arrow on the bottom of the candle, I can again modify the study, go to this signal value, change it to numeric 2, and then I click on modify. So we can see the arrow has shifted to the bottom of the candle. Okay, so this particular study is applicable also on intraday time frame. Okay, so let's say here I have changed the volume factor to 1. Okay, and then I go to the intraday time frames. Let's say 15 minutes. So here we can see wherever there is a spike in a volume, that particular candle is highlighted over there. Okay. So in this way we can use this particular study, the high volume candle. Okay. Then we have the fourth option, fourth study which we have added, that is for the weekly and monthly pivots. Okay. So I just clear the screen. We will open up the new one. Okay. Right now we are on Nifty. We need to shift to intraday time frame. Right now I am selecting a 60 minutes time. Okay, or we will take it, yeah, 60 minutes time. Now we again go to this add study. Okay, here we mention P, that is the pivots. So here we have pivot level for monthly resistance supports. Okay, so here we mention monthly resistance. I go to these parameters. If I want to change the pivot type, then I just need to mention the numerics. So 0 is for the classical 4, okay, the 1 is for the camarilla, and so on and so forth. Okay, and here we can see the R1, R2, R3 has been written as yes. Okay, then I mention in all time frames, and then I click on add. Okay, according to the Nifty spot, the pivot level on monthly basis at 15,696, and the R1 level is at 15,941. So we are trading in a range right now between the pivot and between the R1 for the monthly time frame. In the same way, we can add it for weekly also. So here we go to this pivot levels weekly resistance. Same we can mention the parameters. Same in all time frames, and we click on add. So here we can see the weekly pivot is at 15,843. Suppose let's say if it crosses those levels, so what will be the next resistance based on the weekly? So that is 16,042. Okay, so in this way we can add the pivots for monthly basis and weekly basis. So right now I have just added for the resistance. You can do even for the same for the supports. Okay, next year we have made the changes for the chart settings. Okay, so in the chart setting, earlier if I want to make the changes in the settings, so I used to go from the settings and make the changes from here. Okay, so now we can see the settings for the new charts. Okay, so whatever I make the settings for the new charts from here onwards, it will be applicable for the new chart. But if I want to make the changes for the current chart, I can right click on the charts. Here I have the chart settings. Okay. So in the same way, I can make the changes over here. Okay. So here we can see we have added the new option, that is for the hollow candle also. Okay. Then if I want to make the changes in the levels for the previous day, current day, even I can do that. Okay. Even you can change the color, you can change the styles of it, you can change the thickness. Okay. Now I again move on to daily time frames. Okay. So here in daily time frames, here I go to this right click, I go to chart settings. Okay. Here I go to auto trend line. Okay. So we have added one option, that is for the support level and resistance level. Okay. So I click on this check boxes. Here we are considering the swing reversal percentage of support and resistance based on the 3%, and that 3% should be considered for the last 30 swings. Okay. And then we click on set. So here we can see where did the Nifty made the previous top based on the swings. So this is the top, okay, which is acting as a support for now. Okay. And here also we can see the bottom created at those levels. Okay. So this is a 3%. I make it lower. Go to the settings, auto trend line. Here I make it to 1%, and then I click on set. So I will get the minute tops also over there. Okay. So in this way we can make the changes for the settings also. Suppose, let's say right now I have made the settings for this specific chart. Okay. I open up the duplicate active chart over here. I tile these charts. Okay. I want to make the changes for this particular chart. I can do that. So I can right click over here. I can make the chart setting and keep settings differently for this specific chart, and the earlier settings will be applicable as usual for this right side chart. Okay. So these are the all new features which we have added in Spider 5.2. Some modifications in it and some new studies also have been added. Suppose if you have any kind of doubts, if you want to clarify any study, so you can contact us on our this new number, that is 022 350 18383, or you can WhatsApp us on this given numbers, and even you can drop a mail on our mail IDs.